Welcome back to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy. Spider-Man and Batman are two of the most popular heroes in all of pop culture, the crown jewels of their respective comic book empires. These two icons have always had the best-selling comics and their movies always kill it at the box office. Both characters have been portrayed numerous times on the big screen. Batman has been played by 6 actors in just the past 30 years, and Spider-Man by 3 actors in the past 15 years. Spider-Man No Way Home used the Spider legacy to tell a new story, bringing together all the Spidey actors from different eras for a multiversal adventure. And fans loved it. So, why not Batman? Bring together all the Batmen from the past 20 to 30 years for a BATTY-VERSE movie. Warner Brothers is already giving us 3 Batmen this year: Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, and Robert Pattinson. Keaton and Affleck are returning for Flashpoint, and Pattinson was vengeance. So they obviously don't have a problem with doing multiple Batmen at the same time. Now, which Batman do we want to see in our Bat-Verse movie? First up, Michael Keaton.
What are you? I'm Batman.
The last time we saw Keaton as Batman was in the 1992 Tim Burton film Batman Returns. Keaton's Batman was released in an era when audiences thought comic book movies were silly kids' films.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
But Michael Keaton and Tim Burton defied those expectations and showed the world that comic book movies could be dark, scary, badass.
Yeah, this lights out. Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
The Burton Batman film scared the hell out of kids.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
So parents demanded a lighter take on the Batman. Enter Joel Schumacher.
Can I persuade you to take a sandwich with you, sir?
I'll get drive-through.
Batman Forever and Batman and Robin were a lot goofier and more geared toward kids. George Clooney has even repeatedly apologized for Batman and Robin.
You apologise to the crowd at Comic-Con for Batman and Robin. I always apologise for Batman.
Now, to be fair to Kilmer and Clooney, those films were not their fault. They did the best they could do with what they had to work with.
Oh, don't be silly, Alfred. After all, she's family.
So, a Clooney cameo in this movie isn't something I would scoff at. Despite Kilmer's medical condition, he returned for a small role in Top Gun Maverick, and they incorporated his difficulty speaking. So maybe they could do the same for a Batman cameo. Next up, we gotta have Christian Bale.
I'm Batman.
Christian Bale and Christopher Nolan were the first to show what a Batman film could really be. A dark, gritty, realistic story that appealed to adults as much as it did children. Batman Begins came out 8 years after Batman and Robin, and those movies couldn't be more different. Bale and Nolan completely revitalized the Batman character, and in the process made one of the best trilogies of all time. In fact, we made a video about The Dark Knight Rises and why it's way underrated. You should check that out. And Christian Bale recently said he'd be open to returning to play Batman. More on that in a moment. And then came Ben Affleck.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
All jokes aside, he's arguably the best Batman we've ever had. Made a video about that too. And yet, he never got his own movie. And the movies he was in as Batman weren't very good either. Affleck's Batman is a seasoned version of the character, much like Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. He's been around the block a time or two. And while he is a very dark and gritty Batman, what differentiates him from Bale is that he lives in a much more fantastical world.
She with you?
I thought she was with you.
A world where there are gods from space and beneath the sea. Amazonians, aliens, cyborgs, speedsters, shape-shifting Martians. Oh, and that. So, Affleck's Batman was the perfect balance between the zaniness of the fantastical comic book world and the dark and gritty tone of the real world. I hate that his take on the character never got the movie it deserved, but I'm not crying too hard over it because Robert Pattinson, last but certainly not least. The Batman is, in my opinion, the second best Batman film ever made, second only to The Dark Knight. Matt Reeves and Pattinson's take on the character returned to the real-world grittiness of the Nolan films, but it took it even further. This film doesn't even attempt to appeal to children. This take on the character is brutal, and I love it. So, the main 4 Batmen I want to see in the movie are Keaton, Bale, Affleck, and Pattinson. Imagine a scene where all these Batmen are suiting up and start comparing suits and gear.
What's the difference between you and me?
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
We could hear Bale ask one of the Batmen if their suits are dog bite proof.
Did you get mauled by a tiger?
It was a dog.
Huh?
It was a big dog.
We could see Pattinson get teased for wearing eyeliner.
Are you wearing eyeliner?
And I'd love to hear all four Batmen comparing their Batman voices. Affleck could say to Bale and Pattinson that he remembers when he had to do a voice, and then show them his voice modulator, which is built into his mask.
Funnel fairy butterbar, funnel fairy butterbar, funnel fairy butterbar, funnel fairy. There's nothing wrong with the microphone.
And then have Keaton say, wait, you guys change your voice?
Excuse me. Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Now, in a film full of Batmen, you'd need one hell of a villain, or villains, to give them a run for their money. You could go the Spider-Man No Way Home route and bring in multiple villains from prior Batman films. But let's be honest, there's only one person that could take on multiple Batmen at once, and that's Batman himself.
Oh, you gotta be shitting me.
Imagine, out in the multiverse, there is a Batman who has lost his way. A Batman who has broken his one rule and now kills his prey. A Batman who has grown tired of hoping that Gotham would change and has deemed himself to be judge, jury, and executioner. A story revolving around a team of Bruce Wayne Batmen going up against another Bruce Wayne Batman who's taken a very different path. That would be epic. But what if this bad Batman isn't even Bruce Wayne? What if instead it's Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father? In the Flashpoint comic, there's an Elseworlds Batman that isn't Bruce Wayne, but instead it's Thomas Wayne. In this reality, it is Bruce who is shot and killed in the alleyway, not his parents. Bruce's death leads to Thomas becoming Batman, and the Joker is his mother, Martha.
Why did you say that name?
What if, in this BATTY-VERSE movie, the Bruces of different realities have to come together to save their father from going down a really dark path? Maybe it's even Thomas Wayne that inadvertently brings them all together. Maybe Thomas has built a machine that allows him to travel through time and space, with the goal of going back in time to save his family. Maybe this machine is even powered by an imprisoned Flash. I mean, can you imagine Thomas Wayne's Batman having Flash held captive in the Batcave as he uses him for time travel?
Just gotta go faster than the speed of light, far beyond the speed of light. Gotta break the rule, Barry, and you gotta do it now.
Maybe Thomas came to Flash for help, and Flash refused to help him, citing the dangers of tampering with reality. Thomas then decides to force Flash to help him by holding him hostage and harvesting the Speed Force to run his time machine. I mean, that might end up being a better Flashpoint movie than the one we're actually getting, whenever it's happening. Can you imagine Thomas Wayne's multiversal quest to find his son, resulting in multiple Bruce Waynes being brought into one universe? And then Thomas comes into contact with these other Batmen that he assumes are variants of himself. But then he realizes that all of the Batmen are variants of his son. Meeting grown-up versions of his son could give Thomas the closure he needs to move on and come back to the light. This could also provide some closure for the Bruces, an opportunity to tell their father goodbye. And the conclusion of the film could be the realization and acceptance from the Waynes that Batman is a constant in the multiverse and that he will always be needed. His origin might change somewhat, but he is always born from great loss. That night in the alleyway is a moment in time that must occur in order to give birth to the silent guardian, the watchful protector, the Dark Knight. And by the way, who should play this alternate evil version of Thomas Wayne? There is only one choice.
Pissing our pants yet?
Yes, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Negan himself, he played Thomas Wayne in the flashback that begins Batman vs. Superman, and he's a perfect choice to play the Heavy in this movie. Now, is this idea just a little bit out there? Yes, but so is Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield joining Tom Holland for a Multiversal Spider-Man film.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
So, while I'm not saying a BATTY-VERSE film is going to happen, I am saying that the discussions are surely being had right now. With the extreme success of Spider-Man No Way Home, accompanied by the popularity of multiversal stories and a nostalgia for older comic book film franchises, Warner Brothers would be foolish not to at least consider doing this movie. But on the other hand, Warner Brothers does have their new Batman franchise to think of. The new grounded take on the Batman could be spoiled by introducing these fantastical sides of the DC universe.
One misses the days when one's biggest concerns were exploding wind-up penguins.
And the same could be said for Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale's Batman. I don't think they would want to put their realistic and grounded version of Batman into a trendy multiversal popcorn movie. But what if it wasn't that? What if this film was done in the vein of Christopher Nolan's films like Inception, Interstellar, or Tenet? A bizarre science fiction film that focuses heavily on the real-world science of multiversal theory. Multiple Bruce Waynes discussing the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics and the universal wave function. Simply put, the theory that all possible outcomes of existence do in fact exist in an infinite number of universes. Christian Bale said in a recent interview that he'd be open to returning to the role of Batman if and only if Christopher Nolan was involved. Quote, if Chris Nolan ever said to himself, you know what, I've got another story to tell, and if he wished to tell the story with me, I'd be in. Bale's Batman could bring such an interesting angle to the character by being a retired Batman. Remember, last time we saw him, he had let the world think he was dead. As far as Keaton and Affleck go, I think they'd both be down to do it. Keaton's shown that he loves playing around in this world by playing the Vulture in the MCU, and also in Morbius, and now he's returning as Batman. And Affleck is a lifetime Batman fan who, yes, had a bad experience, but has recently said that his time on the set of Flashpoint was a very positive experience. So, let me know, do you want to see a BATTY-VERSE movie? Would all 4 Batmen need to be in it to even make it worth doing? Or do you think a Bat-Verse film could completely derail what Matt Reeves is building with his Batman universe, or could they make it work? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.